Imagine your EV acting like a power bank for a stranded friend. No tow truck, no panic, just plug and transfer. Sounds dreamy, right? But can it actually work? Today we're tackling V2V, vehicle-to-vehicle charging, and putting the dream up against reality. I'll explain how V2V would work, the tech and standards behind it, the real numbers you need to know, and the practical sweet spot for everyday commuting so you don't ruin your battery pack. By the end, you will know whether V2V is a useful emergency trick or a real game changer for daily life. At its simplest, V2V is two EVs sharing energy. One car discharges to another through a connection that handles power conversion, safety checks, and communications. That can be wired. Researchers and universities have built fettered V2V systems that work like area refueling for planes. One vehicle sends energy to another while both sits on the ground. Those prototypes show that the idea is technically possible, but they also highlight engineering headaches. Safe high voltage coupling, power electronics weight, and communication security. Standards and communication protocols matter. ISO 15118 and related EVSE standards define how cars and chargers talk for bidirectional energy flows. Those same frameworks are natural base for any V2V handshake, so cars can negotiate current limits, state of charge boundaries, and safety interlocks. In short, the negotiation layers exist in standards, but the real-world V2V needs industry adoption and extension of those messages to vehicle-to-vehicle contexts. Power electronics are the guts of V2V. If you want meaningful energy transfer, say enough to move a stalled car to the next charger, you're not talking tiny trickle current. You need DC-DC converters or bidirectional inverters that can handle several kilowatts safely. Recent research proposes technologies like dual active bridge converters for isolated, constant power V2V transfer. Those designs can keep power steady and efficient, but add cost, weight, and control complexities. Efficiency losses matter too. Every percent loss in conversion is energy you would have used to drive. Here's the core problem: range and energy math. Suppose your friend is stranded with a 20 kilowatt-hour usable deficit. Most daily EV commutes use roughly 10 to 12 kilowatt-hour per day. Roughly 3 to 4 miles per kilowatt-hour is a typical efficiency range. So that 20 kilowatt-hour is the equivalent of 2 full days of commuting energy for many drivers. Supplying that much energy from another EV is heavy business. It could have the donor car's available range or leave the both cars vulnerable if you misjudge the transfer. The donor needs enough buffer to give away energy and still reach a charger safely. Sources show average daily use is around 9 to 12 kilowatt-hour for many drivers. So these numbers are practical anchors. Safety and connector complexities are another challenge. Unlike jump-starting a 12-watt battery, high-voltage DC transfers must avoid arcing, ensure safety isolation, and manage thermal stress on both packs. A bad cable or a poor handshake could damage both vehicles' power, electronics, or even worse, create fire risks. That's why standards and protective hardware are crucial before rolling this out broadly. Let's look at the practical scenario and the numbers that decide whether V2V makes sense. Scenario A, short risk. Friend has 5 kilowatt-hour left to reach a DC fast charger 20 miles away. If your car can donate 6 kilowatt-hour and still keep a 20% safety margin, you can probably help. Typical EV efficiency of 3 to 4 miles per kilowatt-hour means 5 kilowatt-hour gives a roughly 15 to 20 miles. Enough for short rescues. That's the low-stakes sweet spot. Small transfers that let someone limp to a real charger. Scenario B, major bailout. Friends needs 20 kilowatt-hour to get home. To donate 20 kilowatt-hour, your donor must have at least 25 to 30 kilowatt-hour spare to keep the battery in a safety buffer. Many smaller city EVs have only 40 to 60 kilowatt-hour usable total, so donating half your pack is a huge sacrifice and often unrealistic. That's why V2V is an everyday replacement for public chargers isn't practical for large transfers. Power and time trade-offs. A practical wired V2V tether might safely run on the order of 3 to 10 kilowatt depending on the hardware. At 5 kilowatt, transferring 5 kilowatt-hour takes about 1 hour. At 10 kilowatt, it takes 30 minutes. Those are real-world numbers because vehicles integrated by bidirectional AC chargers and DC-DC converters are typically rated in those ranges for portable solutions. Heavy, faster gear exists, but it isn't common. One recent article on bidirectional level 2 chargers shows higher AC rates, some new L2 units up to 19.2 kilowatts. But the vehicle integrated bidirectional DC-DC for V2V remains uncommon and generally lower powered in prototypes. That means fast top-ups from one EV to another are limited unless you carry specialized heavy converters. Efficiency and losses. Expect conversion losses of 5 to 15% depending on the converter quality and thermal state. So if you transfer 10 kWh from donor to recipient, the donor may need to discharge 10.5 to 11.5 kWh to account for losses. That changes whether the maneuver is worth it. Thermal and battery health. Repeatedly discharging and charging outside normal patterns can stress batteries. High C-rate discharge from the donor or rapid charging of the recipient increases the heat and the risk of degradation over time. For emergency one-offs, it's fine. For everyday use, this could be X-rate wear. Research on V2V control strategies focuses on limiting stress by managing constant power profiles and ensuring cells remain within safe windows. The sweet spot and how to use it for daily commute charging. Here's the practical actionable sweet spot. Treat V2V primarily as an emergency or short-range support tool, not a daily charging method. For daily commuting, you should do the following instead. Rely on overnight level 2 home charging for most energy needs. Most commuters use around 10 to 12 kilowatt hours per day. A typical level 2 charger at 6 to 7 kilowatts supplies that in like 1.5 to 2 hours. That's cheap, gentle on the battery, and avoids the complexity of V2V. Use scheduled charging and off-peak electricity to save money. Use V2V for small targeted rescues only. Transfers of 3 to 8 kilowatt hour to get someone to the next charger. At 5 kilowatt transfer power, that's a 30 to 90 minutes operation. Acceptable in the urgent cases, but not a routine habit. Don't plan to repeatedly donate large chunks, like more than 15 to 20% of your usable capacity. That risks leaving both vehicles stranded and accelerates battery wear. Always keep a safety buffer. Manufacturers often recommend not going below 10 to 20% state of charge. Precondition before transfer when possible. Warm batteries improve charge acceptance and reduce stress during transfer. That helps both donor and recipient access more power smoothly. And it may shorten the transfer time as well. Numbers recap. Average commute energy is 10 to 12 kilowatt hour per day, which is around 30 to 40 miles for a car. Level 2 charging at 6 to 7 kilowatt covers that overnight with room to spare. V2V tethered at 5 to 10 kilowatt covers small rescues of 3 to 8 kilowatt hours in 20 to 90 minutes. These are the realistic use cases where V2V shines. V2V is not a science fiction. Prototypes and research shows it works, and standards like ISO 15118 gives a foundation for the communication side. But in practice, it's an emergency tool, not a replacement for chargers. The real sweet spot is small, targeted transfers that get stranded cars to get a proper charging station, or allow shared energy in tightly coordinated areas. For daily commuting, scheduled level 2 charging at home or smart public charging is still the easiest, cheapest, and gentlest path. If regulators, OEMs, and standard bodies adopt V2V-friendly protocols and safe, standardized hardware, it becomes more common. V2V could become a useful backup layer, but expect slow, cautious rollout because of safety, warranty, and economic questions.